Here's something that I don't talk about. I'm actually athletically inclined. Now, I know that's kind of hard to believe, but hear me out. When I was younger, my parents put me to a slew of different sports, hoping that I would come out like my older brother Noah, and somehow be some sort of a star athlete. I find that kind of funny though, because my brother didn't end up as some sort of star athlete. The one that actually ended up the star athlete is my little brother Lucas. He's a pretty decent soccer player. Actually, I ended up a pretty decent soccer player myself. My brother Noah tried to be a basketball player, and being average height and mostly caring about school more than anything else, that didn't exactly turn out well for him. I mean, it didn't turn out bad for him per se, but I definitely feel like between the three of us, Lucas and I were the ones that somehow managed to have some sort of relative talent in the athletic field. I mean, let's be honest here, Lucas is actually the more athletic one between the three of us. But I'm trying to give myself a little credit here. I actually did do sports as a kid, I swear. Now, I know I don't talk about this a lot, and I quite frankly don't know why I don't talk about it a lot, because sports ended up being a huge part of my life growing up. Granted, it probably wasn't as important in my life as sports were to my friend Sadie, who was some extreme cheer chick who taught me how to do a backflip. Or even Mira, who was a crazy track star that literally could chase down a horse. Yeah, if there's one thing in my life I really hope to never forget, it's that if I ever tried to run away from Mira, there would literally be no point in doing so. She's too fast. It scares me. I did a few things growing up for sports, but I think the one thing that I liked the most was soccer. It was a really simple sport, and it was super easy. Okay, easy isn't exactly the word that I would use, but I feel like my wee little brain would have been so overwhelmed by anything else that soccer was probably the best. It was a very straightforward game. There were a few rules to remember here and there, but I managed. Thanks to soccer, I actually ended up a pretty fast kid. I also ended up somehow having a nice athletic physique. I somehow managed to be a healthy child. Wow, I know, shocking. That's totally a joke, by the way. I've always actually been a pretty healthy person. My parents have always been pretty well educated in the realm of health and making sure my brothers and I were healthy kids. That's why they put us in sports in the first place. Honestly, there are not many things that I can never get mad at them for doing to me in my childhood, because many of them were great things that caused me to have a lot of good experiences in my life. I didn't exactly become super close with anyone that I did any of my sports with growing up, but I definitely felt like I was a part of something bigger, and therefore, it's one of the reasons I've always loved having a big community. Don't get me wrong, I love all 5 of my girls that I've grown up with basically my whole life, but if I just stuck with them, I probably wouldn't have been such an extrovert. But my girls are also some of the people that I spend all of my time doing sports with. Well, not sports exactly. Sometimes, when we had a burst of energy, we might all go out on a run together and catch up. Well, not all of us. Angie was usually one of those people who preferred to stay in the house and maybe make an art piece or something. And even though we all know it, Bryn, who is actually a very good athlete, would usually prefer to stay inside and read a book. So, if I ever ended up going out with anybody, it usually ended up being Mira, Sadie, and Casey. I didn't mind not having them all there though. Honestly, it was kind of difficult to get us all in one place at the same time. I know I talked a lot about all of these crazy events and adventures that the 6 of us would go on together as if we spent all of our waking minutes together, but that honestly isn't the case. Remember, there were 6 of us, and all of us had our own lives to live. I wasn't exactly an extreme sporty kid. I did do soccer for many years, but when I hit high school, I did decide to join up with Mira on the track and cross country teams. I definitely wasn't as good as Mira, so I didn't make any crazy varsity teams. But it was nice to see Mira from time to time, and I had the nicest body I think I ever would have had at any point in my life during that time. People don't give enough credit to running as a sport. It honestly does wonders. Even now, living in France, I try my best to stay active, but it does get a little bit difficult. I didn't realize how much college would actually take up some of my time, And so, honestly, working out is something that I do miss a lot. The two biggest sports in my life just happen to be at track and in soccer, and the fact that I don't do them anymore is something that I do kind of mourn a little bit. It was just the feeling of being able to go to the random little competitions against the high school teams. Or that feeling that I got after I finished a really difficult workout, and even though I felt like I wanted to die on the spot, I still felt a little proud of myself. Or even those times when I would come home from a practice after we did some sort of bad workouts, and even though it lasted no more than maybe 10 minutes, I was still expecting to see a washboard six-pack. Yeah, I still sometimes expect that if I have a laugh attack that is so bad that my stomach hurt afterwards, I'd get a six-pack. I know that will definitely not happen, but a girl can dream. So yeah, I was an active kid, I swear. And I do miss it, so let's hope that I'll be able to get that back. You don't really realize when you were as active as you were as a kid, that when it disappears, you really feel like there's a part of you missing. I didn't realize how much of an impact sports made on my life until I up and moved to France and realized that I didn't have any of the familiar things I once had with me. I think the one thing that has kept me sane is when I spontaneously realized that I have the time to put on a pair of running shoes and just go see the city while working out. That really got me through some rough homesickness. I do miss doing competitive sports, and even though I'm definitely way too old for that boat anymore, I'm still glad it was in my life, and I'm glad I get to remember it. If it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have been able to survive as much as I have. So, a letter to competitive sports. Thank you for everything, except suicide runs. Those suck, and the person who invented them can go sit in a 10-foot hole.